we need to remember when we're trying to interpret the derivative in context. Last week, we just focused on that. When you see that table, you're likely calculating the slope. That's not the only time you might be calculating the slope, right, with the f prime, but we're going to learn how to interpret what we just had, okay? And I kind of hinted at it a little bit last week. I talked about it in some of the ones we went over, but we're going to actually be able to write out like a concluding sentence, because sometimes they will ask us to interpret what that actually means. So we want to make sure we include the following. The context. So don't just name the function, include what the function is modeling with words. Okay. Totally have it frozen. Oh no, I don't have it frozen. Okay. Now I do. Units. Include the units for both the answer and the x variable. Often the x variable is time. Okay. If it's instantaneous time, it must be clear. So you have to tell me exactly the time that it's at. So you have to say at t equals something. Okay. And rate, include the word rate in your sentence. Typically, if we've taken the derivative, that is a rate, right? So it's the rate at which something is increasing. The rate at something is decreasing, okay? Kind of something to remember, to help you remember all of that stuff, is the acronym NUT, okay? So N stands for nouns or numbers. So basically, you're rewriting the words of the problem, the subject of the problem, okay? Units is of whatever the appropriate units are. And if it's a derivative, it's something per something. Okay. If it's a second derivative, it's something per something per something. Right. And then the time, include at when the derivative, which derivative change was computed. Okay. All right. So we're supposed to go back and interpret the meaning of the answer in context from example 1. And they gave us a nice little sentence frame there. So what we're going to do is we're going to go back and read the paragraph for example 1, or the stem of the problem. We're going to find the content, determine if it's increasing or decreasing, the rate of whatever that is, so the derivative with units at some time. Okay, so let's go back up to example 1. We've already done the work on it. So it says the height of a sunflower in inches is measured over the course of 7 weeks. Use the table to estimate h prime of 2, include units of measure, and we got that it was 9 inches per week. I'm going back here. Okay. So the noun or the words of the problem, what are we looking at in that problem? What does it say? Not just the sunflower, but the height of the sunflower. So that's what's going to go in that first blank. We're interpreting the height of the sunflower. Height of sunflower. And whatever the crazy scenario is. Okay. Now, we have to determine if it's increasing or decreasing, because rates either increase or they decrease. It's increasing if the answer or the slope is positive. It's decreasing if the slope is negative. So let's go look at our answer. Okay. So is my answer positive or negative? Positive. So is it increasing or decreasing? My answer is positive. Do I increase or decrease? Increasing. So is increasing at a rate of, and then this is where I write my answer basically. So at a rate of, in this case, it was 9 inches per week. Okay, and then look at the time that we substituted in, because we knew that too. And then at the time is 2 weeks. Okay, right? Because I plugged in a 2. So at, what did we say? 9 inches. Ooh, that's not what I wanted. 9 inches per week at t equals 2 weeks. Notice I have to keep the units with that. Okay, we're going to just do one more. We're going to do example 4, and then we'll do the other 2 tomorrow as our little 5 minutes, okay? All right, so read that little question stem to yourself real quick. Okay. I always think it's funny when I read this problem because the gentleman that I stole a lot of the notes problems from, he's from Indiana, and they have a lot of corn in Indiana. So I think it's funny to read this problem. All right. I happen to go to college in Indiana, so I know there's lots of cornfields. All right. You miss the mountains when you leave California and the West Coast. All right. So we've got a factory that produces delicious cans of corn for a typical corn enthusiast. A particular machine is notorious for packaging corns at impressive speeds. The amount of cans is that this machine packaged after t seconds is modeled by the differential function c of t. Approximate c prime of 1 using correct units. Interpret the meaning, the value of the context of this problem. You can sometimes almost interpret it before you do the calculation, but we're going to do the calculation. What does that mean to do? What's c prime mean? Slope, right? Which is derivative, which is rate, right? It all means the same thing. So I got to find the slope at 1. Which numbers is 1 gonna be between? 2 and 0. So I know 1 is going to be in here, so I'm going to use these values. I'm still going to show my difference quotient just like I did last week. So I know that I'm going to find c prime of 1 equals c of 50. No, it's not, Mrs. Ballard. C of 2 minus c of 0 over 2 minus 0. And then I'm going to plug in my 52 and my 16, and I'm going to write 2 minus 0 still, because that way I keep that difference quotient for both. We are going to take it to a number just for consistency today. Makes it easier to write our sentence. All right, so I got 36 over 2, which is 18. Okay. What would my units be on this? Cans per second. Okay. All right. But I want to actually write a sentence because it tells me I have to, using correct units, interpret the meaning of the value of the context in this problem, which means that on the AP test, out of the 9 points for the problem, they're going to give you 1 point for getting this answer right, and they're going to give you 1 point for the interpreting the meaning correctly. Okay. All right. So what is the noun of the problem? What's going on in here? What's going on? What do these first 2 sentences give us? How fast they're making cans of corn, right? So how fast it's being packaged, right? So the cans, and there's no like, you can write slightly different nouns as long as you got the meaning right, okay? So the cans of corn being packaged is, okay, and then I need to determine if it's increasing or decreasing. Look at your answer. Is it positive or negative? Positive, so is increasing, and this is where you use the word rate, at a rate of, and then you're going to literally plop that in there, 18 cans per second. 18 cans per second at, so this is where you go and you find the value you plugged in, the time value. So what time did we plug in? It's not 1 hour, but 1 second. Done. Okay. The nice thing is literally when they ask us to interpret, it's usually a 1 sentence thing. It's not like we're writing huge paragraphs. Okay. You have to write a sentence. All right. And don't abbreviate. Seconds is fine like that, but like the best you can to not abbreviate things, the better, because it's not worth losing the points because they can't understand your abbreviation. Okay. All right. We're going to switch out of that one and let's switch over to the other notes. Okay. We'll finish these last 2 examples on this one tomorrow as our weekly skills check. Okay. I am